Thank you to our witnesses for taking time to come here today and provide testimony. I now yield 5 minutes to myself for questions. I know many different people have different entry points into the aviation world, whether it's a career or even just a hobby. And I want to share a little bit of my own story before I begin. As an 8-year-old child, I was over at my Uncle Chuck's house and looked on the floor in the corner, and I noticed an F-16 sitting on the floor. It was a model F-16 that was a remote control airplane, and I began asking questions. And from a little 8-year-old child, it spawned a lifelong fascination with aviation. I went on after that to fly anything you can fly with a remote control, everything from airplanes to seaplanes to helicopters, drones, I mean, you name it, and I fly it with a remote control. And as I sit here today, I'm an FAA check ride and an FAA written exam away from having my own general aviation certificate. But one of the things I'm concerned about as I look at the next generation is the overall pipeline for the next generation of pilots and airplane mechanics. I know there's a lot of focus on older students in aviation, but I would think, 8-year-old Rudy would say that sometimes that interest is sparked at a much younger age. And one of the things that my interest in model aviation taught me at a very early age is everything from physics to aerodynamics to control surfaces and flying and just the overall fascination of how an airplane actually works. But the hobby, it didn't break the bank. And it seems to me that even looking at the last FAA reauthorization bill, there were a lot of new regulations that were added to the hobby. And so we may need to revisit that and maybe even recalibrate that in the upcoming reauthorization. I'm not sure, maybe even perhaps you, Mr. Pelton, can speak to this. I know it's a little bit out of your lane, but even more broadly, I'm curious to know, what are some of the efforts of your respective associations to reach even further down into the education system and reach even younger students today?
Thank you for the question. Actually, it is in my lane. I'm glad that I turned out to be a better pilot than my RC flying when I was a kid like you, because I crashed an awful lot of them. We have a program at EA through our chapters, which we've collaborated with the AMA, the Modeling Association. It's called our Build and Fly program. And we have RC models that are, we believe that part of our mission is getting kids to work with their hands in the learning of basic education. And they build an RC kit at the local EA chapter, and then they collaborate with the AMA chapter in that area to actually go learn to fly that model, because we understand that 8-year-old to the 15-year-old has to have a different type of learning experience for aviation, because you can't go out and take a written test, you can't start your flight training or do any of that. So we're trying to fill that gap where Mark does such a great job then of taking the formal education piece in the post-secondary or in the high schools. And so we collaborate between the two of us on that. We do think that the modeling rules got wrapped up in the UAS craze of when hobby drones were so popular, and there was such a concern for the number of those being flown in improperly in incorrect areas, that we did leave behind the fixed wing RC airplanes that fly at designated model fields that are already out there and identified and confined to basically 400 feet around that airfield. And we should go back and readdress that, because it has really put a damper on the RC flying for young kids.
Thank you.